Dear students, welcome back to biology online classes. So, in the previous class, we were studying about the structure of heart. We have seen that what are the chambers, what are the valves, okay, and what are the blood vessels that are joining to the heart. Okay, now today we are going to study about the cardiac cycle, or it is explaining how the heart is working. Okay, the function of heart. Let's see how it works. So, as you know, there are four chambers in heart, isn't it? And when all these chambers of the heart are in the relaxed state, it is known as the joint diastole. What is it? Joint diastole. Clear? And at that time, the tricuspid valve and bicuspid valve. Do you remember what are tricuspid valve and bicuspid valve? Tricuspid valve is what present in the right side, isn't it? We have studied right side, and they help to what, to control the backward flow of the blood, isn't it? So the opening between the right atrium and the right ventricle, they are guarded by what, a three flapped, okay, valve, that is known as what, the tricuspid valve, isn't it? So tricuspid valve and bicuspid valve or mitral valve is there, where in between the left atrium and left ventricle, isn't it? So you can see the tricuspid valve and bicuspid valve will be opened. Okay, so what happens? The blood from the atria, okay, the auricles, will move towards the ventricles. Understood? At the same time, what will be closed? The semilunar valves. Where are semilunar valves present? In between the heart and the arteries, isn't it? So, like this, what happens? Some amount of blood will flow into the left and right ventricle. Now, what happens is SAN. Do you remember what is SAN? Sino auricular node, isn't it? Sinoatrial node. From there, what is it known as? It is known as the pacemaker of heart, isn't it? Why it is known as pacemaker of heart? Because the action potential or the stimulus, okay, to contract the heart muscles starts from where? SA node. So SA node, from the SA node, what happened? An action potential will be developed. Understood? And then what happens? And this will be passed into the AVN. AVN is what? Auriculoventricular node, isn't it? So into that it will be passed from where? From SA node. Okay. Now what happens? It will. Now, the SANs, okay, action potential developed by the SAN stimulate both the atria, okay, left and right atria to contract. Now, what will happen? The flow of blood happens to the ventricle through what? Through the valves, okay, bicuspid and tricuspid valves are there. So, through that, the blood will pass into the what, ventricle. So, first what, when the all the four chambers of heart are in the relaxed state, okay, the valves, bicuspid and tricuspid valves will be opened, and the semilunar valves will be closed. So at that time, what, the veins, they will bring blood into the auricles, and then what happen? An action potential develops where in SAN, okay, that stimulates the atria to undergo a contraction. So what will happen? That is known as what? Atrial systole. What is it? Atrial systole. So joint diastole means when all the chambers are in the relaxed state. Now after that, when an action potential is developed in SA node, what will happen? That will result in atrial systole, means the contraction of atria, and this increases the flow of blood into the ventricles, okay, and then the action potential formed in SA node will be what will be sent to AVN, and from there it will go to the entire ventricular musculature through the bundle of S, okay. We learn now the AV from the AV node. Okay, the nodal tissue extends in the form of what? Bundle of hairs into both the walls of the ventricle. So to the walls of the ventricles it reaches. Now this causes the ventricular muscles to contract. That is known as what? Ventricular systole. Okay, so after joint diastole, atrial systole will be there. After that, ventricular systole. Okay, now what happened? The atria will undergo relaxation. That is known as diastole. Understood? That is coinciding with the ventricular systole. Okay, now ventricular systole or the contraction of ventricles causes what? Pressure. Okay, and that closes the tricuspid and bicuspid valve. Otherwise what will happen? There will be chance of backward flow of blood. Okay, so now as the ventricular pressure increases again, the semilunar valves will get opened. Okay, and that is valves where they are present in the arteries, isn't it? The pulmonary artery and in the aorta. So they will get opened, and the blood will be pumped to the where from ventricles to the blood vessels. Okay, so now what happened? The ventricles again it will get relaxed. That is known as ventricular diastole, and the ventricular pressure falls. Okay, and that results in the closure of semilunar valves. Okay, that is also needed to prevent the backward flow of blood. Understood? Now as the ventricular pressure again what declines or comes reduced, okay, the tricuspid and bicuspid valves will push to open. Okay, and then that causes what? Filling of atria, isn't it? From what? By the veins will bring blood into the atria. Okay, and the tricuspid and bicuspid valves will be opened. Now what will happen again? The blood now once again moves freely to the ventricles and atria, and now again in the relaxed state, that is joint diastole. Okay, then again this cycle repeats. That is SAN creates a action potential that leads to the auricular contraction that pulls the or that pushes the blood into the ventricles. Okay, then the valves, which valves? Bicuspid and tricuspid valves will get closed. Okay, now the ventricular contraction happens due to the passing of what? The action potential from AV node through the bundle of his into the walls of the ventricles. Okay, so like this what happened? This cardiac cycle again it continues, or it continues in this way. This sequential event in the heart, okay, which is cyclically repeated, is called the cardiac cycle. So what is cardiac cycle? The sequential event, okay, that takes place in the heart, which is cyclically repeated, isn't it? We have seen that after one cycle another cycle will start. This cycle, which consisting of what? Systole and diastole. Systole means contractive phase and diastole means the relaxed phase. Understood? Of both atria and ventricles. Okay, is known as cardiac cycle, and this cardiac cycle occurs 72 times per minute. Okay, means in a minute it happens 72 times. Means a cardiac cycle will take around 0.8 seconds. Okay, so to complete one cardiac cycle means from the joint diastole, okay, to the atrial systole, then ventricular systole, okay, and then again the starting of the joint diastole. So this much will take around 0.8 seconds. Understood? And in each cardiac cycle the blood pumped by the heart is around 70 ml. Okay, and this is known as the stroke volume. What is it? The stroke volume. So what is stroke volume? The amount of blood pumped by the heart, okay, in a cardiac cycle. So around 70 ml of blood in 0.8 seconds it happens. So that is known as the stroke volume. Okay, and the stroke volume multiplied by heart rate. Okay, that is how many? Usually it is 72 times per minute, isn't it? Heart rate, and that gives the cardiac output. Okay, so the cardiac output is the volume of blood pumped by, okay, each ventricle per minute. Means in each minute how much blood will be pumped by the heart, around 5000 ml or 5 liters in a healthy person. So this is known as the cardiac output. Understood? So the cardiac output of an athlete can be than the ordinary man, because they are or when you are doing exercise etc., the cardiac output will be more. Why? The heartbeat rate will increase per heartbeat, okay, or per cardiac cycle. What happens? Around 70 ml of blood is pumped out from the heart, and it happens around 72 times, okay, in a normal, in a in an average man, and that is around 5000 or 5 liters, okay, 5000 milliliter or 5 liters per minute. Understood? Then you can see two sounds that are produced while the heart beat is happening, okay, through the stethoscope. So when you go to doctors for any reasons, they will check your heartbeat through an instrument known as stethoscope, isn't it? So what they are checking? They are checking for the sounds that are produced, okay, during the heartbeat. The first heart sound, that is lub, okay, so lub, tap, dup, likewise only we say it as lub and dup. So lub is what the heart sound happens when the closure of tricuspid and bicuspid valves happens. Understood? So I told you that when the heart is in the, means in the joint diastole, blood comes and fill in the auricles, and then what happens? SA node creates the pulse, and that causes what? The auricles to contract, and auricles, when it contracts, blood will be pumped to the ventricles. At that time, what happens? The closure of bicuspid and tricuspid valves will happen. Understood? So that sound is heard in the form of what? A lub sound. Understood? And then the second sound, dub, is associated with the closure of semilunar valves. Understood? Semilunar valves, when it is closed, when the the ventricles contracts and pushes the blood into the arteries. Okay. After that, the semilunar valves will get closed. Understood? So this sound is heard as what? Dub sound. So lup and dub sound are the sounds, heart sounds. They are produced by the closing of various what? The valves. Okay, the lup sound is produced when tricuspid and bicuspid valves are closed, and dub sound is heard when the closure of semilunar valves happens. Understood? So in this way, you can see that the heartbeat or the cardiac cycle happens. Okay, so hope this much is very clear to you. Okay, so what all we learned? That is the cardiac cycle. Okay, what is cardiac cycle? The rhythmic, okay, the cyclic process of what? The heart, isn't it? That starts with a joint diastole, then atrial systole, and then what? The ventricular systole. Understood? So all this together is known as the cardiac cycle. Okay, then we learned from where the the action potential initiates and how it passes and how it helps in the heartbeat. Okay, then we learned about what is the stroke volume. Okay, and what is the the time taken by each cardiac cycle, that is 0.8 seconds, and in a normal average person, around 72 times this cardiac cycle happens per minute. Okay, so the stroke volume is calculated as 5000 ml or 5 liters in a healthy person. So hope this much is very clear to you all. Will continue in the next class. Thank you.